Homeschooling isn't always picture perfect. Welcome to Homeschooling with Dr. B, where we'll help you find solutions to the challenges you face and celebrate your successes with you. Now, please welcome your host, Dr. B.
Welcome, my tenacious homeschool tribe. On this episode, we will be talking about my husband's and my own personal experience with homeschooling, which I have to admit was not a very good one. So let's start with my husband. When he was getting ready to go into middle school, his parents blackmailed him into attending a religious homeschool co-op. They had promised him and his best friend that they were going to be taking them to an amusement park, something that's supposed to be like the equivalent of Magic Mountain, but this place is in Ohio. In any case, the day they were supposed to go to the park, my in-laws told my husband the only way they would take him would be if he agreed to go to this homeschool co-op instead of going to regular or to traditional school. My husband was not interested. My husband does believe in God, but he did not want to attend this co-op. His path, as he saw it, for his future was to attend college. And he felt that this co-op wasn't the right place for him. The reality was that he was not incorrect. This particular co-op was very weak in academics. Its emphasis was strictly religion. But at that point, even though he knew that he didn't want to go to the co-op, that his parents were wrong to blackmail him the way that they did, he had told his best friend that they were going to be going to this amusement party. He was all excited to go. And like any kid, he caved. His time at the co-op was pretty miserable. Number one, because he didn't subscribe to those religious beliefs. Number two, because he could see that he was falling further and further behind when he compared himself to his friends that were not attending the co-op. And after a couple of years of bitter infighting between him and his parents, he finally was allowed to return to a traditional educational setting. Unfortunately for him, he had been correct all along. He was seriously behind. He was not able to participate in college-level mathematics, college-level reading and writing courses. He had to do a lot of remediation when he went on to college. And of course, he always goes back to that co-op experience, which he feels was a complete waste of time. But despite the fact that he felt that his experience was a waste of time, he didn't blame homeschooling. He made the people who had been doing the homeschooling responsible for the outcome of his time in that homeschool co-op. My experience was completely different. When I was in the third grade, right after the Christmas program, my parents unexpectedly took me and my sister out of school. That was it. We moved to a separate town, completely different town. Then my parents decided they didn't like that town, and we moved to my grandmother's hometown. We were unschooled for 2.5 years. We were allowed to play. We could do whatever we wanted. We were taught to cook and clean and do laundry. I'm a killer with the iron. And probably because of this time. I also know how to kill a chicken. My grandmother was really good. Just wring its neck. Fast and easy. During these 2.5 years, I learned a lot of things. I have to admit that they have served me very well throughout my life. My grandmother might not have taught me anything about reading, writing, or arithmetic, but she taught me a lot about life in general. One of her favorite sayings was, "A woman worth her weight in salt can do anything that she has to do." I guess salt was valuable when she was growing up. I don't know. In fact, if you want to learn more about my grandmother, you can listen to Motherhood Later in Life, episode 4. You will learn a lot about my mother and my grandmother, the type of women they were. Very strong women. In any case, so I don't consider my time with my grandmother a waste. It taught me a lot about being a strong woman. But as far as academics, there was nothing, absolutely nothing. And then at some point, my parents decided, you know what, the kids should go back to school. Yeah. By then, I should have been in the 7th grade. But when she took us back to school, they said, well, we really don't want to put her in the 7th grade just yet. But she's too old to be put in the 3rd grade. So let's go ahead and put her in the 6th grade. My middle sister had a similar experience in that regard, but I won't speak to her feelings about it or how she feels it impacted her life because, well, I want to respect her privacy. As for myself, I really struggled. Grammar, extremely weak. Spelling, extremely weak. I always lacked those foundational skills. I did well enough to go on to college, but I'm going to be honest with you in that I struggled for many years with the basics. And in fact, anytime I turned a paper in college, I really had to spend a lot of time editing because I knew grammar was a weakness of mine. I never could enjoy math because I was lacking all of that foundational work. I did graduate with honors from college. I did get into a tier 1 university, one of the best universities in the country. In fact, I was accepted into an Ivy League. I chose not to go to an Ivy League because I only received a partial scholarship, not a full scholarship. Overall, I would say that I was very successful academically, and I have to attribute that to my grandmother. She taught me to work hard. She taught me not to run away from difficult decisions. She taught me how to handle crisis. So I owe her a lot. So my unschooling experience, while academically weak, had a tremendously positive impact on my life. Just tremendously positive impact on my life. It really did. My husband has also gone on to be extremely successful, although he doesn't consider his homeschooling experience to be positive at all. He does have an MBA. He is a very successful entrepreneur. What were our feelings about homeschooling before we started homeschooling our girls? My husband was always concerned about the socialization component because when he was being homeschooled, his socialization was very limited. But that had been by my mother-in-law's choice. She wanted her children to only spend time or to spend as much time as possible with the other church kids, not the kids in the neighborhood. For me, I had a bazillion cousins and aunts and uncles, neighbors, and we were allowed to do anything we wanted as long as it didn't cost my parents any money. Okay. So I had a great time. I mean, any weekend I spent it with anywhere from 6 to 13 cousins. Great time. So while he had a negative experience, I can say I had a very positive experience, but it did have a negative impact on my foundational academic skills. Here's the thing though. The thing about homeschooling is that it is completely individual. What do I mean by that? It is completely up to your family what your experience turns out to be. You can choose to make it academically strong. You can choose not to focus on academics. You can choose a completely different focus. You can choose to educate through traveling. You can choose to educate online. You can choose to educate yourself. It is completely up to you what kind of experience your family will have. And it has to be based on your own personal goals. I have seen an incredible array of success as my children travel through the different homeschool groups, because that's another wonderful thing about today. All you have to do is go to Meetup or go to Facebook and you will find hundreds of groups in your area. Little groups, big groups. On any given week, we can have a field trip every single day. And we have done that sometimes, especially when the girls were younger. Nowadays, my girls, they enjoy the socialization component. And right now with the pandemic, they're just dying because they miss being out there. But their focus tends to be artistic. They take piano lessons. They take singing lessons. They take dance lessons. They take acting lessons. This is where their interests have gone. You know, one of them goes to an entrepreneur club. Their interest has guided our exploration. We are very strong in academics, not because I'm a college professor, but because we as a family, my husband and I and the kids, know that their goal is to go to college. Therefore, we behave as though they're going to be attending an Ivy League school. We prepare them with those skills. It doesn't mean that they're going to. Right now, I have a daughter that's interested in going to University of Central Florida. It's a good school. It's not an Ivy League, but that's where she thinks she wants to go right now. In fact, 2 of them are thinking that way. The other one is thinking about Juilliard or Berklee School of Music. The thing is that I'm confident that they have already, in fact, the skills to be successful at any of those schools. But again, it isn't about me and what I'm doing with my kids. It's about you. What are the goals for your family? I have met a family who completely unschooled their child the whole time. Then when he was 16, he suddenly became interested in cooking shows. And so this was really his focus. Then he decided he wanted to go to culinary school. He has gone to culinary school. He's a very successful chef. He was never into academics. It wasn't the path for him. I've met another family. They really focused on academics, but they were all about mechanics. They really focused on mechanics and robotics. And the children have all kinds of licensings to work on diesel engines and all kinds of machinery. They started working when they were 16 years old. They were already making a big salary as their father. I've also met families that decide that their child is strong enough to start attending community college when they're at the age of 12. And they do, and they go on to graduate from college very early on, early teens, and then they go on to get master's degrees, and so forth and so on. Again, it completely depends on what your goals are. You make out of homeschooling what is best for your family. It's completely individualized. Don't let anybody tell you that what you're doing right now because of the pandemic is not homeschooling. It is. Okay? There's all kinds of difference of homeschooling and homeschoolers. There's the ones that attend school online. There's people like me. I'm an eclectic homeschooler. I take curriculum from one place. I take curriculum from another place. I take curriculum from another place. I put it all together. And there's people that buy curriculum that's all-inclusive. There's people that do a combination of all-inclusive curriculum, online classes. It doesn't matter what approach you take. If you're educating your child at home, you're a homeschooler. And again, Whether it's a good experience or a bad experience, it's completely up to you. Your commitment, your dedication, your goals. So I hope you will join me on this homeschool journey to get tips, to get encouragement, to know that it doesn't have to be perfect to be beautiful, because it doesn't. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have good days. And I'm going to be here to encourage you, to support you, to help you out in any way that I can. So please subscribe and download our podcast and visit our website for additional resources. So whether you're just embarking on homeschooling or you're an old pro, I hope you will join us in our sometimes crazy, always fun homeschool journey by subscribing and downloading our podcast or visiting our blog. For links and resources, please visit our website. Till next week, enjoy your kiddos.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Homeschooling with Dr. B. Head over to homeschoolingwithdrb.com for more information and resources. That's homeschoolingwithdrb.com. Until next time.